Tom Stoukas coming to you from Sarnia, Ontario. October 26th, Sunday night. Hope everybody's having a nice night. Uh, so it looks like we're going to be in big trouble. I thought I was talking about so much about Indians all the time, and I was kind of getting sick of it. I think it's a huge problem about immigration, huge problem. But now we're kind of shifting our focus on the upcoming disaster of our federal budget, if we even get one in November. But if we do get one, it's supposed to be like a deficit that could reach $100 billion, and that's basically government spending $100 billion more in a year than they bring in. So who knows if it'll even pass, if we have another election, what's going to be done with the economy, if it's, because obviously that's not sustainable. So we're going to be talking a lot of economics instead of just immigration. But, they're both huge problems because the governments in Canada and the provinces have destroyed the economies with their policies. Plus, they've flooded the country with immigrants who are driving up housing prices, healthcare costs, healthcare services. Just the whole. So it's just squeezed. You're squeezed at both ends. So when's the budget supposed to be? November. So in a couple weeks. And they have to vote on the budget. And if they don't pass the budget, there's an election. But I think the NDP will vote for the budget because they'll get bribed into voting with Carney and his budget. But I don't have any faith in these guys. I don't know what's going on. Then we had an independence rally in Alberta where they had a pretty good turnout, 10,000 people at least. And then a few hundred in Quebec, Montreal or something, for Quebec independence. So not only did we got a collapsing economy, unsustainable deficit, whatever, immigration just out of control. Now we have provinces that are people in provinces, the two important provinces that are pushing for separation. So and at a time like this, you need strong leaders, and there aren't any at all, like in the mainstream, in the main parties at least. John A. Macdonald reminds me of the situation when he when Canada became a country. He was like a very integral part of keeping it going because there was a lot of things that could have derailed the whole thing, and he was really the leader Canada needed at the time. Now we don't have anything, so it should be interesting to see how it turns out. But with the current leadership, Mark Carney, it'll be interesting to see how long he can keep going with the approval of people. But I said this before, he's supported by the elbows up crowd, the boomers, and the immigrant communities, totally, like the various enclaves throughout Canada with the high immigration ridings. He gets those, and then he also gets the conservative, the centrist conservatives, like the fake conservatives, who don't like Pierre, or I don't know, or they don't think. Like they think Carney's a centrist enough that they could support him as opposed to Trudeau. So that's how he's the prime minister, and he's just gonna, I don't know. We'll see how long he can keep that grift going. And Pierre, he's talking now about taxes and stuff, like cutting taxes. And he doesn't seem to be gaining since his by-election win. He doesn't mean lighten it up. He doesn't seem to be lighting it up. So, and then we got our premiers acting like basically helping destroy Canada, like Doug Ford. I've said this for years. I'm like a broken record that he's a traitor since COVID. I've seen it, and like the time when he was portraying himself as a Joe Lunchbox kind of guy who's out for the little guy, out to help the little guy, and then COVID showed that was totally not true. He was a tyrant, and he gift wrapped the economy. He gift wrapped the market to Walmart and all the big box retailers and the food delivery companies and the fast food restaurants, and he screwed everybody else. And wanted the police to start pulling people over for no reason. So the COVID was bad. Like, I hated him from the COVID vax pass, everything. And then the fact that he was buddies with Trudeau and Chrystia Freeland for years while they ran Canada into the ground, and now he's buddies with Carney. And then you got David Eby, and then he did that commercial with the U.S. And then you got David Eby in BC saying he's going to do the same thing, do his own commercials. And I don't see anything in Canada. I don't see any good leadership in Canada. But let's go to the wires here. This is what I saw. My daily review of posts on the internet. Okay, keep going. This is the start. Okay, the cow stand. I don't know why we let these guys into Canada. I have no idea why. They're doing some kind of referendum. I don't know why they're doing a referendum. I mean, they're in Canada, and they're doing a referendum on something in India that's not going to happen, even if they win the referendum, because India doesn't want them. But here we have them in Canada. I don't know. It's starting to get annoying. Like, why would we let this into the country? Why? Let's see if I can get the sound. Why? Oh. Sorry about that. Yes, this is what's going to happen. Sorry, I always complain about these guys, so every time I see a video, they deport the Calistanis. But the problem with the Calistanis is the Indians don't even want them back. So why would we want to bring them here if their own country doesn't even want them? Okay. I hate this guy. Look at this guy. He's not Indian, this guy's Sri Lankan apparently, but it's still same area. So he's famous because he goes around Toronto bugging women and films it, and then he'll say freedom of speech and this is public place. I don't think he understands how it works here in Canada. Just because we have freedom of speech doesn't mean you're free to harass women and creep on women, because someone can punch you out. You never know. And that's kind of what we call standards, social standards here in Canada. Let's look at this guy. I've seen his videos before. He was hitting on a Toronto cop, female cop, who was, she was pretty. And he was calling her like OnlyFans, like asking her if she had an OnlyFans account and stuff. And the cops all hate this guy now. So if we're going to deport, this guy should be at the top of the list. Deport this little gremlin. And I wish I could go and drive to Toronto and just hang out downtown, and if I just run into him, it'd be awesome, because he likes to bug women, But I don't think, he's going to run into a wrong guy at one of these days in downtown Toronto. And, but let's look at it anyway.
In the sheet. You're so tall. My God.
What a weirdo.
She's very tall. Oh, she's very tall. Yeah, I'm a short man. That's why ladies don't like me.
This guy's got mental problems.
It's not creepy. I'm taking the video in a public place.
A public place.
What do you mean creepy? Everybody has. Yeah, look at that. Look at that. It's not illegal to take the video.
No, but
if you wanna be private, you gotta stay at home, darling.
So this is bullshit.
Stay at home. She's looking at me. She doesn't like.
You notice he's talking like there's only women around him. I don't think he'd be talking like that if there's some guys around.
See, everybody has a camera, Stay
women and children only.
Privacy. Yeah. Oh, look at that. Stay at home.
I gotta look at the neighborhood here. I gotta go to Toronto and find this guy.
Privacy. I can't believe it. Unreal. My man, that's bad.
And then he finishes the video as a chastising a guy for littering. Like, I just sexually harassed a bunch of women, but this guy's littering. So yeah, this guy's got to go. I don't know who he is. Creepy brown filming woman. When they call him out, he tells them to stay at home. Yeah, he's got to go, this guy. 100%. No hearing, nothing. Automatic stamp. Deporting stamp. Okay. I've seen his other videos, and it's like, he's going to do it to the wrong person one of these days, this guy. Deport. And then here's Doug Ford. I was trying to get resigned Doug Ford trending. I said he should have resigned a long time ago, years. Instead, he keeps getting reelected. But hopefully, people are starting to see this disaster of a premier. Okay. Next post. This is an interesting thing. It's a Trump official talking about how the Trudeau and basically everybody in his government are they're what's the word? Basically, they don't like Trudeau and his government. They're all, like, this is what he's saying. Anyway, and I was thinking about this exact thing, and in relation to the whole trade thing, disagreement going on right now. And you have to look at the context, the background, and you got to understand, for Canadian officials and politicians have been taking personal shots at Trump and his administration since 2016, so almost 10 years. It went overdrive, increased in 2020 when they lost, and they thought, okay, he's totally going to go to jail. We can say whatever we want about him. And then he comes back in 24, and they're like shitting their pants because they basically been slagging him for years, and he's come back stronger than ever. And they don't want to work with the Trudeau people, and they're basically saying Carney's it's the same team basically. And I said it's all those years they were slagging Trump because, Trump derangement syndrome and all that. It was in our government, 100%. And now the chickens are coming home to roost, and the average Canadians are paying the price for their disaster. Taking personal shots at the guy for 10 years, of course he's not going to like you. It doesn't mean he doesn't like Canada. But he sees the third world commie mess that we are, and then he sees the people he had to deal with for 10 years. You kind of understand why dealing with us the way he is. But let's see what this guy says.
Canada in trade negotiations.
I'm not saying like this guy's like right or whatever. I'm just saying this is their view. This is their viewpoint of things. The U.S.
What it has been so challenging about dealing with Canada in trade negotiations?
I guess the lack of flexibility, and also I would guess that leftover behaviors from like the Trudeau folks that can be very frustrating for people who are negotiating.
So yeah, basically, they don't like anybody in the Canadian government, and judging by the way they've destroyed Canada, I'm not gonna defend them, the Canadian government. This guy's slagging them, but I'm not going to defend the Canadian government after seeing what they've done. Chickens are coming home to roost. Trudeau is one of the main guys. He's gossiping like a little girl about Trump. You know, you got to put that personal shit aside for the good of the country. Okay. What's this one? Once you realize there's no Liberal, Conservative, or NDP, and it's just one giant team trying to fuck over everyone else while getting incredibly wealthy in the process, things make a lot more sense. Yes, I think people are starting to really realize that the political parties aren't there to help you. At the provincial level, federal level, everything. So we just got to get, past the boomer elections. Okay, this is funny. Baywatch, India style. So this is Australia, and they're having the same problem. They're basically getting flooded with Indians and Southeast Asians. Big problems. Same as Canada. Actually, they're probably worse because like India's like not that far from them. Not as far, I don't think. Still far, I guess. But this is funny. Watch this.
Corey locates the man near the shoreline.
He was with his son.
It's Baywatch, India style.
By the offender's son, the boyfriend of a victim sees the images. Mid-afternoon, and a rogue photographer has caught the attention of beachgoers.
He took some photos of her as he rolled over, and then he followed him down to the water, so I thought I'd go and give him the heads up.
Guy taking photos, we're just going to get him to come in and get him to show us his phone. I'll grab him.
Corey locates the man near the shoreline.
He was with his son, his wife and kids and grandkids and the whole family. Got explained that we needed to have a look at his phone. He was doing something inappropriate, and the son had no idea. So
it's
he was
weird.
like, okay,
usually lifeguards are
and then he was shocked.
Rescuing people from the water, not checking people's phones, but it's, when you're perving openly, then the lifeguards have to act. If you just be a little discreet, they can't really bug you. But if you're perving right openly,
While the offender's son deletes the images, a man identifies
and apparently
the
these
photo
pictures,
of his girlfriend.
yeah, this guy's not happy. The pictures were probably like close-ups. Probably close-ups. There's a push and shove going on.
He was ready to punch on with him. You understand the problem? I pretty much had to tell him, mate, please don't. You're going to go with the police if you do. Sorry, buddy. That family just had to leave the beach, and they were shattered because they were there just enjoying it, but just one person in the family ruined it for them, so they were gutted.
All it takes is one person. Disgusting.
Listen,
I thought that was funny, but I'm sure the problem will only worsen. I mean, all it takes is one. Okay. I thought this was interesting. Frank Luntz, he's a U.S. pollster and strategist. I don't really like him, but I think he's right about this. He says, whoever authorized the Canadian ad using President Reagan to attack President Trump should be fired. Americans don't like it when foreigners try to influence domestic policy. In fact, we hate it. I love Canada because I love Canadians. They are wonderful, generous, kind people, and I mean that. Canadians also deserve political leaders who don't try and meddle in American politics. So I think he's right about the American mentality. Once someone, a foreign government, especially Trump's kind of fairly popular in the polls, so to attack a sitting president through these commercials was like, even if your argument is right, it was never going to win. You're never going to win with the American people. It's only going to hurt your cause. And nobody somebody in Ford's office should have known this. So either they're dummies or they know it and they didn't want to tell them to do, like it was a bad idea, or they didn't care. Because I think Ford's trying to make him further his career. He doesn't care of the consequences. He wants to look like Mr. Tough Guy. Okay. I saw this. This is our Prime Minister in Malaysia for the... This is like an APEC thing going on over in Asia. But he's saying like we're basically done with the States and we're going to do like deals with Asia, which are thousands of miles away. So if we're going to do like free trade deals with them, there's going to be like tankers going nonstop between Canada and China and Canada and Asia. Like it makes no sense. Like literally the U.S. is like right there. Let's see what he says. Oh, he's talking about Doug Ford there.
Yeah, God, sorry.
He's trying to be funny. Bankers, when they try joking, they don't understand. They're not funny.
I launched with my good friend, Premier Ford. Did I say good friend, Premier Ford? I said the always entertaining, the always interesting, the always unpredictable Premier Ford.
He's trying to be funny.
Yeah, God, sorry. I don't know why I mixed the two up, President and Premier Ford. Is that on, by the way? No.
Yeah. Not funny. But it shows, like, Doug Ford, buddies with Trudeau, buddies with Freeland, buddies with Mark Carney. Might as well be a liberal. But people in Ontario, the conservative voters in Ontario say, oh, we got to vote for Ford because the Liberals or the NDP are worse. But, I mean, he's a liberal. Literally a liberal on everything he's done. Maybe a couple little things, like a little low-hanging fruit, like the speed cameras or whatever. But on the big issues, no, totally liberal. Okay, I saw this today. I don't know what date this was. Nearly half of Canadians favor mass deportation, and 65% think there are too many immigrants. 65%. Those are good numbers. Got to keep that up. The thing is, the conservatives and liberals aren't. They're saying, oh, we're going to cut it. We got to cut a little bit, but that's not going to satisfy the people in these polls. They want mass deportations, not cuts to temporary foreign workers or student visas. Mass deportations. So it's need to find some politicians who will talk like this, like say the words. Okay. That was a good, I saw this last refuge, good thread on the trade deals going on. I read it. It's pretty good. It's on my timeline there. Learned a lot. All right. Here's Winnipeg Free. The Winnipeg Sun. Doug Ford and Wab Canoe's political theater isn't leadership, it's embarrassment. And now it's resulted in another 10% tariff on Canadian products. So it's an op-ed here by their editorial. Yeah, Wab Canoe was saying, oh, Ford should keep running the commercials. I don't know what's going on with Wab Canoe. Okay. $75 million for those commercials. I mean, it's ridiculous. And then now BC to launch anti-tariff ads as Ontario pauses controversial campaign. BC Premier David EB says on social media the ads will be aimed at an American audience to explain who wins and who loses with the tariffs. So basically the exact same thing as what Doug Ford's did. So I'm sure, yeah, that will help the situation. He's the dummy who wanted... The BC's full... I don't know what's going on with their politicians. They've always had weird politicians, but he's the guy who did the... He was in full support of the... What's the word? Legalizing drugs. They were giving out drugs and stuff. I can't remember the term for it. Safe supply. I think that's it. Yeah, he's a garbage leader, and if he does these commercials, you think Carney would be like on the phone saying, "Hey, man." And but I said this, like all the premiers in Canada seem to be retarded. Like the guy in Nova Scotia, the chick in New Brunswick, or whatever one they're from, and Doug Ford, Canoe, Wab Canoe, and David Eby. Danielle Smith's not bad, though. She's got some things I don't like, but she sounds pretty smart compared to the rest of them. But if he does this, we'll see. I don't think he you don't think he will do it. I don't know. You'd think he would say, I'm sure Carney's on the phone with him saying, don't do it. Saw this today. Canada has turned down 80% of Indian student visa requests in 2025 so far, marking the highest rejection rate in over a decade. So yeah, that's good news, but I think the reason is because people know it's a scam. They know people aren't coming here to study from India, so that scam's closing down. But the fear is that they're just going to find another way to come into Canada. So the student visa thing, they rode that horse good for 10 years. Now it's like they got millions of people into the country because of it. And every student coming from India to Canada had no intention of going back to India. Like they were coming here to stay. So now it's been exposed for the fraud that it is. So now they got to start, they got to stop accepting so many international students. But I'm sure they'll find, like I said, a different way to scam to get into Canada. They're good at that. They find all sorts of different ways. Okay. Do you think Carney's government has reached out to Eby and told him to cool it on the ads? Because we all know this is not going down well for Canadians if this ad runs. Yeah, you would think Carney would call BC and say, don't do it. But next, the Second Sons are causing some headlines today, going after CBC. Second Sons is like a Canadian nationalist group. Meanwhile, in Regina, Second Sons dropped a banner at CBC headquarters that's hard to argue with. CBC hates white people. Yes, I that's totally true. I don't think you could get hired at CBC if you're a white person. They did the same thing in Ottawa, too, the CBC offices, so they'll be totally triggered, CBC. CBC's wrote a lot of bullshit stories on these guys, so they deserve what they're getting, the attention, especially when they suck up billions of dollars of taxpayer money just to call white people racist. Next. Here's Pierre Poilievre, which a bunch of boomers. And I said Pierre, since his by-election, he's been kind of like going from issue to issue. It's like immigration in 1 week, and then he's EV mandate the other, and then he's this and that. Seems like he's forgotten about the immigration lately. I haven't seen Michelle Rempel-Garner tweeting lately. Maybe she blocked me. But here he is talking with a bunch of boomers, and they're talking about taxes. Like, oh, I want to keep more of my taxes, or my money, which is good, yes. Canada needs a total revamp on the incentive to earn money in Canada, because right now there's no incentive unless you got a tricky accountant. But what bugged me is this, really, I think these guys seem not to worry. Okay, imagine if everyone got to keep what they earn. That's what the post. So I said Canada's being taken over by third world invaders, and these boomers are more worried about their tax bill. Literally, that's what bugs me about this clip. Let's see.
You have to. What do you think about the no income tax for 65-year-olds and older people?
Boomers.
I'm 62, so I'm getting close. No,
I love it. I mean, we got to get rid of it for everybody. But I'd love to see that happen. We have to find the money before we can.
Of course.
Give that kind of a break. But lower the taxes, the better. Income tax were a temporary measure in World War I. They're still there. So.
Get the country thriving first.
But even if we lowered them across for everybody, that would be wonderful.
We will.
We all know how hard it is now. Yeah.
I was knocking on doors, and this lady said to me, "I think you need to do more for our seniors. And you need to give more to our seniors." And she said, "And I think you also need to give more to our young people." And I said, "Well, what about the middle age?" She said, "Yes, give them some more too."
Yeah.
Oh God. Okay. See those boomers? I know they're not bad people, but they're not worried about their grandkids won't be able to buy a house. They're not worried about maybe their granddaughter could get raped by a third world migrant. They're not worried that they're going to be replaced by the time their grandkids grow up. They'll be a minority in their own country. They don't care about basically the destruction of Canada. They just care about their income tax or tax cuts. Heaven forbid they need to pay less tax, and for sure we should be paying less tax. But I think the biggest, the most pressing problems are not that. Easing the tax burden on boomers is the kind of the least pressing problem right now out of all of them. But look at them; they don't have a care in the world. Meanwhile, Pierre is supposed to go talk to some young Canadians at a youth event on Thursday, because they're trying to do the Conservatives are trying to get to the youth vote. Well, the youth vote ain't going to vote for you unless you start talking their, meeting their, listening to their concerns. So it should be interesting. It depends on if it's like a campaign, where they screen all the people coming in, a controlled event, or if it's an actual event where people can ask them the questions. So hold on, we'll look at that. This is from the Liberals for the federal budget. Right now, we don't have the votes to pass the federal budget, says Liberal House Leader Stephen McKinnon, pressing opposition parties to consider if they want another election. So this is common with minority governments. Every time there's a budget, there's this threat that the government could fall. I don't think it will. I think the NDP will support it, because there'll be all sorts of spending for the NDP pet projects. But I could be wrong. I heard they might suspend Parliament. I don't think they'll do that. That'd be pretty unless they had they used some crazy excuse to suspend Parliament so they wouldn't have to do a budget, or they could lose the vote and have an election. I just can't see that. But, we'll find out in November. It's going to be an ugly budget with a deficit that could reach up to maybe 80 billion or more. But like I said, I think the NDP will end up supporting it, just like they did with Jagmeet. Should be interesting, though. All right. There's a 2. That's the Winnipeg Sun. Ford and Canoe. Political theater isn't leadership, it's embarrassment. They got to add Ebby to that list. Okay. And here's this event that Pierre's going to. No More Sacrifices youth event with Pierre. Who writes these slogans for Pierre? No More Sacrifices youth event. Thursday, October 30th. Marriott downtown. So it looks like it's an open event. But it would be cool to see some young kids cook them, saying, commit to mass deportations or remigration. Hey, Dominion Society, the young Dominion Society members should be showing up to this. U of T conservatives. So it looks like it's a conservative event. They'll probably screen people. You can't go in. No more sacrifices. It'd be nice if you actually got some good feedback from the youth. The right-wing youth. Next. This is Carney. We're in a climate crisis, so Canada must build trade relationships and ship all its goods to countries on the other side of the planet. Yeah, that doesn't make sense. I don't know why he wants to link us up with China so bad. Okay. Mark Carney wants to get net zero by ending trade with the U.S. and moving trillions worth of goods across the Pacific instead of an hour truck drive south. Climate leadership and action. Yes. So that's Carney's that's his plan. That's his plan. Next. Next. Last local story here. This is right by my house. It's like The Walking Dead. So they opened this church. They made this into a temporary shelter for homeless people, mostly drug addict homeless people. And the whole neighborhood, this is a nice picture. You just see it now. The whole neighborhood's destroyed a little bit, more and more every day. Calls to curb violence at Sharner Shelter. Yeah. They want to do this throughout the city too, put these things. And in Toronto, they want to put shelters everywhere, drug supportive housing everywhere. To hell with the ratepayer and the guy, just wants to go home after work and not have to worry about this. So drugs are being sold right on the front lawn. She pleaded for more security. That's from Sarnia Councillor Chrissy McRoberts, that she pleaded for more security at Lambton County's temporary shelter. Temporary. It's been there forever. 2 years now, almost. So she didn't call for it to close down, Chrissy. She said more security. I wonder who pays for that. Just like Rainbow Park, more security. She needs to go, this one. Community surrounding the former church has been complaining about the people leaving the shelter and wandering the neighborhood. Some enter yards, defecate on the lawn, and McRoberts says there is open drug use. Right on the property, we have this happening, she said. I don't know why they're talking to her. She probably supports it. Police are there every night, multiple times a night. How are we going to handle this? Because it is our responsibility that people are there and they're on the property. We have an entire community that's being torn apart because these folks are everywhere and there's drug use and there's violence. McRoberts, who's on the police services board, says the police chief tells her the situation is not improving. Sarnia City Councillor Bill Dennis has also heard from the neighbors of the shelter, send him photos of 4, 5, 6 police cruisers at the facility, so it's really taken up a lot of police resources. Melissa Fitzpatrick of the Social Services Division says there's lots of traffic coming from the shelter, but she believes that the added security on site, the amount of unfavorable activity has decreased over the last few months. Unfavorable activity. She said the residents in the area might say it's still too much. I can commit to looking at our security, our model of how things are done, and see if there are always ways that can improve it. So instead of closing the place, which shouldn't have been open, all these politicians and bureaucrats talk about is adding more security. You know, and they want to open more of these all over the city of Sarnia and every city in Ontario. It's horrible. Commies. You know, I'm not saying we shouldn't help these drug addicts and homeless, but it's always totally for their convenience. It's not for, you know, the rights of neighborhood and homeowners in the neighborhoods. You know, we have to bow to the convenience of the drug users and the homeless. You know, if I were a drug user or homeless and you know, I wouldn't expect people, you know, to change their whole life to accommodate my drug habit. Like, call me crazy. But that's the message they're sending. It's like, oh, we just need more security to babysit these guys. No, you need to get them out of that neighborhood. So, anyway, that's the last post of the day. So, yeah, lots of fun stuff. We'll see how the things go in the next 2 weeks with the trade. BS, the Doug Ford, see if he keeps his fat mouth shut, see what Carney does, and how this budget goes if we have an election. So, yeah. But, I mean, hopefully it can't get much worse than it is in Canada. But hopefully it gets better. That'd be nice. Well, so the next broadcast, geez, what day is it today? 26th, 27th, October 29th. I can't believe it's almost November. So our next broadcast will be October 29th. Until then, have a nice night and take it easy.